take it down now, I can just show that you removed it. Whatever you decide.
Or you could pay the price. One Brooklyn man was slapped with a fine by the Department of Buildings for flying a flag. Now the city is reeling that back. Hi, I'm Christine Persichetti. When building inspectors came knocking on Joe Mafia's Gerritsen Beach door, they told him 2 flags on his property had to come down. One was a Let's Go Brandon flag, a popular flag sometimes flown by Trump supporters. Joe agreed to take that down. But the next request raised a big red flag for Joe. Inspectors insisted he take down his American flag, too. Jessica Easthope joins us now with the story you'll only see on Currents News. Hi, Jess.
Hi, Christine. Those flags, like you mentioned, were on Joe's private property, so seems like a violation of the First Amendment, right? Well, now the city thinks so, too. The agency withdrew the violation and a $500 summons only after we reached out with questions. Things went so far, Joe even had a court date. Take a look. Joe Mafia calls himself a proud patriot, and this is how he expresses it.
People died for that flag.
American flags aren't uncommon on his Gerritsen Beach block, but on January 19th,
Yeah, you could just take it down now.
Joe was the only person asked to take his down. The New York City Buildings Department showed up and called his Let's Go Brandon flag, a popular flag flown by Trump supporters, and his American flag, illegal signs in a residential district.
I'll remove the bottom flag, no problem, but I'm not taking. Now, both flags, or you're going to get a summons for $500. I said, give me the summons. Not removing the flag. People died, like I said, people died for that flag.
It was all captured on the Resurrection parishioner's doorbell camera. The inspectors were following up after getting a 311 call from a neighbor. Joe doesn't know who it was.
And thank God for the Ring doorbell, so I was able to capture it, because I don't think anybody would have believed what I was saying. It's not right for what the city tried to do.
From the director of the DOB Sign Enforcement Unit, I got your number from our press office and from the reporter you've been in contact with.
After Currents News reached out to the Department of Buildings to investigate, the city withdrew the violation, saying it was issued in error. They even left Joe a voicemail.
Going to get it withdrawn. Obviously, flags are protected by the First Amendment, so we don't want to get into any of those issues.
But what's disturbing Joe and his neighbors is that a city agency would act on a civilian complaint without following protocol.
I think it's a disgrace. It's America, and we should be allowed to have our American flags. That's the government now. We have no rights anymore. It's like a communist country.
We want speed bumps on the street or make the street one way. For years now, nothing has happened, but the flag situation is getting taken care of pretty quickly now.
Joe's waiting for the official notice that the violation has been withdrawn and his court hearing has been canceled.
And I just want to thank Currents News for bringing this to everybody's attention and getting this somewhat resolved as of right now. You know, it's not in writing yet, but it's hopefully on the way.
Joe says this is a clear example of government overreach, and though he's happy his case is getting resolved, he says he thinks this could happen to someone else. Christine?
All right. Thank you, Jess. And you could read more about this story online at thetablet.org. Meanwhile, just as the 2024 presidential election ramps up, a first-of-its-kind report from the U.S. bishops is warning that partisanship could actually put Catholics in grave danger. Why? The bishops say that federal agencies are misusing certain laws, thereby threatening the religious liberty of Americans. Let's take a closer look at what's outlined in that report. The bishops cited pressure to perform abortions and gender transition procedures. They also highlighted a recent slew of threats to charities helping migrants and the suppression of religious speech on marriage. But the biggest threat is against houses of worship being the targets of partisan politics. In recent years, houses of worship have been vandalized, tagged with graffiti, and some even burned down. Speaking of violence, the caretaker of a Catholic church was slashed with a box cutter on Sunday after he asked a man to stop urinating near Immaculate Conception Church. Katie Vasquez has the story from the East Village.
Started here, pull back.
Dozens of stitches mending a serious cut that John Match received Sunday evening. The caretaker at the Church of the Immaculate Conception was going about his normal duties when he says he spotted this man urinating on a nearby car and confronted him.
I got physical with him because he was exposing himself. He left,
But that wasn't the end. John says later on, as he was trying to help a parishioner who was in a wheelchair, the man returned, slashing him in his neck from behind his ear almost down to his chin.
He just cut me without me looking. Felt like something hard coming down my throat. I broke my lounger and wrapped it on my neck, and I started chasing him out of the premises.
John didn't catch the suspect, and EMS took him to Mount Sinai, Beth Israel. According to the NYPD, crimes went down in 2023, murder dropping 12% and shooting incidents falling 25%. Longtime East Village resident Sarah Ferguson says while this isn't a violent neighborhood, this corner has gone downhill.
I don't know the exact causes or why it's kind of off the hook, but that particular block between First Avenue and A is definitely changed.
John says he wouldn't hesitate to stand up for his church if it happened again.
If I have to get another one, I'll get it. I don't care. It's the church of the community. I'm not going to let nobody violate our rights. We are fighting, basically, I'm fighting for my parishioners. It's approved. It ain't supposed to be like that.
Meantime, police say the suspect is still on the loose and are asking for the public's help. In the East Village, Katie Vasquez, Currents News.
Anyone with information on that suspect is asked to call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-577-TIPS. That's 1-800-577-8477. Monday marked the 51st anniversary of the Roe v. Wade ruling, and President Joe Biden commemorated it by announcing some pro-abortion plans. The move is trying to offset the impact of the Supreme Court overturning Roe in 2022 by increasing access to surgical and chemical abortions. Part of the plan includes new guidance from the Department of Health and Human Services to provide so-called emergency surgical abortions. This can happen through a federal law guaranteeing stabilizing treatment for patients regardless of their ability to pay. While that law doesn't mention specific medical treatments, the White House says emergency care can sometimes include abortion. The Supreme Court will rule on this interpretation of the law in June. This comes right after thousands from around the country went to the nation's capital last Friday to defend the unborn. As President Biden proves, just because the March for Life is over doesn't mean the fight for life is done. To see the full picture of the movement to make abortion in this country unthinkable, tune in tomorrow, Wednesday, January 24th, for our Currents News March for Life special. That'll be at our usual time, 7 p.m. right here on Net TV. You won't want to miss it. Finally tonight, the Tablet challenged students in the Diocese of Brooklyn to create art showing how they keep Christ in Christmas. And the winners are in.
All right, guys.
The newspaper reviewed more than 100 submissions from across Brooklyn and Queens. St. Patrick Catholic Academy in Bay Ridge, St. Savior Catholic Academy in Park Slope, and Holy Child Jesus Catholic Academy in Richmond Hill all had multiple winners. The winners received an award and a cash prize thanks to the Archbishop John Hughes Knights of Columbus Council. Congratulations to all the participants, winners, and honorable mentions. Very talented kids. That is this Currents News Update. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.